Good afternoon, Easton, and welcome to the Rabbi's Roundtable. I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi at Temple B'nai Israel, and we're coming to you from the studios of MCTV, which is located in the Avalon Theater. And today I have a very special and dear guest, Al Silverstein. Al needs really no introduction. He's visible and been around town for a while. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Rabbi, for the opportunity.
My pleasure. And why don't you give us a little bit about your background, and then we'll start some questions.
Okay. I was born in Brooklyn, raised on Long Island, rural Long Island. So, Easton reminds me very much of rural Long Island when I was growing up.
Where in rural Long Island?
We lived in Nassau and then Suffolk County.
Oh, nice. It's no longer the same place.
No, it's changed significantly over the years. But and then I had the opportunity to go to college in South Dakota, which was my dad's alma mater. Spent 18 years in South Dakota. Started with a teaching degree, worked in retail. I was both a city and a county assessor and independent appraiser, and then moved to Nebraska for chamber work. Actually started in Huron, South Dakota in the chamber. It was spent 38 years managing economic development, tourism, and chamber organizations.
Wow.
And came here in 2000 to manage the Talbot County Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, and we're glad you did, may I add.
It's been a great opportunity for my family. My son and daughter-in-law came here a number of years ago, and so it's nice to have them with us.
As I always say, it's a wonderful place to be, especially if you like nature and water and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's see, you were a town council member from Ward 1, correct?
Yes, I represented Ward 1. My first election was in 2015.
Yeah.
And then I was reelected again 4 years later, and now the opportunity to run for mayor has come about. Okay. And the reason many people ask me, why are you running for mayor?
That was my next question.
Yeah, the first thing is last year Mayor Willie celebrated the opportunity to be the longest serving mayor in the town of Easton. And he's given great service to our community.
Absolutely.
Over half a century with the fire department, third of a century in government. And he indicated that this was going to be his last term. And so I started thinking, who's going to fill the void? What things could be done a little differently? And so I made my intentions known that I would run for mayor in 2023.
Oh, cool. Very good. Are there any other candidates?
Mayor Willie is running again.
I knew the mayor.
And our town council president, Megan Cook, has also.
Oh.
So for the first time in many, many years, our community is going to have three choices.
Yes.
And I think we're all quality individuals.
Well, that's absolutely correct, no question.
Yep. Yeah. So it's just a matter of how we see things and how we look to the future.
Sure. So as you involve yourself in the candidacy, share with us what your priorities are. What are your top priorities?
Well, having worked for the Chamber of Commerce for 20 years, I really have a sense of what's happening in the community. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, 3 years ago, I had a kidney transplant. And prior to that, of course, trying to get to see doctors, trying to get the health care that I needed became more and more challenging. And everybody that I talk to talks about the fact that we need to improve access to health care. We need a new hospital, but that's only one part of the three-legged stool. We need to recruit new physicians and other medical professionals. And I spent 10 years in North Platte, Nebraska on a physician recruitment committee.
Oh, wow.
And we used some strategies that were successful in those days. I think some of those strategies could be transferred here, and have had conversations with some of the senior members of the hospital about that initiative. Also, more and more people are coming, but if they can't find health care, they've got to go across the bridge. And it's becoming a life and death situation for some people.
Literally, that's not just a metaphor.
Right.
Do you see this growing? You see this, people responding to this priority?
Well, I think people are telling me that's their number one priority. We have to be proactive. The Governor Hogan said he put $100 million in the budget towards a new hospital. But with our new governor, Governor Moore, he did not include that in his budget. And so we need to spend a lot of time explaining to him and his staff the critical need for that hospital. And we need to spend time lobbying along with the University of Maryland to make sure we get it. I remember when this hospital was sold to the University of Maryland.
Me too.
And the commitment was made to build a new hospital. And I'm going back to 2008.
I know.
And they first said, well, we've got to take care of the Cambridge hospital and find a solution, which they have. We need to do something in Denton, and they built a facility there. We need to do something in Queen Anne's County, and they built facilities there. And then they had to do something up in Kent County with the hospital they had, and they finally have that figured out. And the only thing that's left is a new hospital, a new regional medical center.
That's what I was going to say. We would be, in spite of all these other places, Easton would be the regional center for.
Right, and that was the whole idea, was a hub and a spoke system.
Yeah.
And the spokes are there, and now we need the hub.
Good.
And, in visiting with young physicians and other medical professionals, they get to work in major medical centers, in brand new hospitals, and then, to recruit them here. And the people we have are great. Administration's great, but personally, I've been in the emergency room a few times prior to my transplant, and I've been upstairs, and I can tell you that that's not a place I want to be. I want to be in the best facility I can be in, with the quality people we have. Yeah. And if we're going to recruit new quality people, they also want to be in the best facility they can.
Yeah. Then I want to make clear that there's a distinction between the facility and the staff.
Oh, right? The staff has always been
staff is
outstanding.
Terrific. Yeah, absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Right. So. And everybody has complaints about where they've gone,
of course,
at one time or another, depending on their circumstances. But
I never heard that as a rabbi, by the
way. but I can tell you that I have had nothing but quality care from the individuals I've been able to interact with. But they need a new facility, and we need state-of-the-art equipment.
Yes.
And our community deserves it. We have contributed greatly to maintaining this facility, going to the doctors, and the university has been great about bringing new physicians in, specialties, everything else that needs to be done. This is the last piece.
Yes. I would also like to see the hospital reinstate a more formal chaplaincy program. I'm not being a wise guy about that.
No, I understand.
I think spiritual health is as important as physical health, and for a lot of reasons, I would like to see that grow as well.
And that should be a component of a new regional medical center.
I hope so. I hope it will be.
A chapel and also just the program itself.
The program, whether they have a chapel space that but
there's always time for people who want to have private reflections.
Well,
and that's important.
My youngest son is a physician in L.A. He's a plastic surgeon. Don't ask. That's a different story. But when he was going through medical school, I asked him if they had any discussion or any kind of exposure to spiritual healing.
Right.
And not really. I mean, living with me and growing up in the house of a rabbi, he understood it.
Right.
But I've always thought that that's an important component in the healing process.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Anyway.
The other things that are important is making sure that our first responders have all the necessary tools.
Oh, absolutely.
As our community grows older, I have an app on my phone from the fire department, so I get to see the calls that they make. And you see how many ambulance calls there are. And I know the county is doing a good job of, countywide ambulance service, but that's gonna have to be expanded into some of the other communities. Our fire department's looking at a training site now.
I know that.
And now the discussion is to expand it, and so that other organizations like the sheriff's department, our police department, can have access to it. I've talked with our police chief. We have an outside gun range. Frankly, we should have an inside gun range so that they can practice, because they have requirements by the state that they have to practice so much.
Yeah.
Let's get a facility indoors so they don't have to stand out in the rain or in the mud. And the site that we're looking at right now in our new industrial park might not be big enough for what we need. So we need to keep our eyes and ears open. We need to look at all the possibilities. And whatever we do, make sure it's right, it's first class. And the other thing is, I met with the firemen the other evening. We're going to, the town's gonna work with them to build a day room at the fire hall. And I looked at the restrooms and said, let's get the restrooms fixed too. It reminds me of a barracks a little bit.
Oh, all right. Well, when was that built?
Probably back 20, 30 years ago, And,
change is necessary.
it is. But whatever we do, we need to do it right, and we need to keep in mind the people we're serving and the people who serve us, and make sure that they have adequate tools. The other thing, I worked in economic development for many years, and we talk about economic prosperity for everybody, not just bringing big companies and stuff, but working with entrepreneurs, working with individuals who work from home and have companies, making sure, as we're doing now, that our county gets all of the internet service it needs, and Eastern Utilities doing a great job of getting grants and wiring. Talbot County will probably be the most wired county in the state.
Really?
By the time we get done. That initiative is really getting to the last mile, getting to that person's home, so that if you're a lone eagle and you want to work from home and telecommute, you're going to have as good a service as we do in the town of Easton.
That's terrific.
And that's
listen,
really...
That's progress. We're living in that, it's no longer the dark ages.
Yes. The other thing that's important is to preserve our small town heritage. Easton is a unique community. I'm currently going to be president of the Talbot Historical Society.
Oh, nice.
And have worked with them and recognize and continue to learn more about the history of this county and of this community. And we want to preserve as much as possible. But in that process, a number of years ago, we expanded the historic district. And we are finding that it's impacting negatively some of the areas that are being expanded to. And so I think we need to relook at that, and we need to say what's really historic and what just needs to be outside the historic district. And in a couple of cases, when I go to the historic district commissions, we've talked about that, and they've said, maybe we did go a little too far. I know everybody who comes up and has to meet those standards has concerns about the rising costs of that.
Right.
At this point in time, the federal government says any home over 50 years is a historic home. Well, go back 50 years, that's a 1950s home.
I know.
And so,
I know.
that can cause some real hardships.
But there's always tension, and obviously I feel it here a lot, and for multiplicity of reasons, between growth and progress and trying to, as you say, preserve the nature and character of the town.
Well, we have a green belt that we have self-imposed around the town of Easton that says we're not going to grow any further. And I don't think a lot of people know that. The other thing, and for the last number of years, I've been trying to go to all of the planning commission meetings or follow them online, go to historic district commissions, meetings, Board of Zoning Appeals. And I've come to the conclusion that our planning and zoning processes for development need to be tweaked. we need to be having conversations, if it's on a major road, with the state highway department. We need to talk to the school district about what's the impact on the school district. We need to talk to the county council on, what's the impact to them because they fund the school district. And we should be having those kinds of conversations before it even gets to the planning commission.
Yes.
Preliminary conversations and saying, can this road take it? And we know we've got developments being proposed on Matthewstown Road. We have developments being proposed on Oxford Road. And we
Big
need to
developments.
and we need to be smarter about the way we do that. And we need to give it more consideration.
All right, well, again, it's important, and, as I said, the tension between growth,
Right.
change, and preservation of internal integrity, basically.
Well, the question is, how big do you want to grow?
Yeah.
And I think there are certain things that the town council and mayor can do to say, this is the level we want to go to based on citizen input.
Well, I'm always reminded of and I've quoted this before, but it's my favorite quote in all of Scripture. It's from the book of Proverbs. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
I agree.
And that's,
And the other thing in line with the new hospital is, we should be looking at what are the redevelopment opportunities for the current hospital.
yeah.
Is it going to be senior housing? Is it going to be housing for young people we're trying to bring back? Will it have adult daycare? Will you have child care opportunities there? And I don't hear much discussion going on right now about that. And I think, we need to look at the future and we need to say, what if, and what can we do? We're a great community. We've got wonderful parks. We're gonna get, looks like 198 acres of trees on Oxford Road, and that's great. But we don't have a strategic plan for the community. We don't have a strategic park plan. We need to sit down and we need to plan. I'm used to, in my work with chambers and development groups, to sit down every year with the board of directors and the staff and have a strategic plan. We're not doing that now with the town council and the staff.
Okay.
And I think that's really an opportunity that's a missed opportunity.
Interesting, yeah.
Most of the time, as a council, we get our materials on Friday for a Monday meeting. It doesn't really give you a lot of opportunity to dig in. And sometimes people will see, I'll ask for something to be held over so that we can have more time to dig in, ask the right questions. And the other thing I see, we have a lot of important meetings that are at noon or early in the morning.
Right.
And the general population can't get to them. I would like to see if we can transition some of those to some evenings where people can actually come in and have citizen input.
Sure.
So once again, there's real opportunities for changes that are positive changes. And then the last thing is building a culture of inclusion.
Yes.
I mean, you and I grew up in the Northeast. We know the history down here. We know when segregation finally had a demise. But there are people who still carry that because they grew up during that time.
I know.
And they went to school, only blacks here and whites here, and all of those things that you read about.
Absolutely.
Were very real to them. And so we need to reach out, and we have a new Hispanic culture that's coming in. And
Very
I sit on the
successful.
Chesapeake Multicultural Chessmark board, so that I can better understand the needs of those citizens.
Sure. It's changing, and we need to grow with that change and be responsive.
Right.
In the new development, will we have bike paths and walking paths?
Well, those are things that are being required in a number of developments as we look at them.
Good.
The Gannon subdivision on Matthewstown Road, we required a park.
Oh, yes.
One of the things I've had people who live on the east side of 50 talk to me about is wanting more rails to trails.
Yes.
And I think that, we have to be very intentional about providing that as new development goes into that area.
Good.
Don Abatello, who represents the second ward, is pushing for a sidewalk all the way down Matthewstown Run. on Matthewstown Road, because a lot of people walk to the grocery store,
Yes.
walk to Walmart, and it's dangerous. And so I've been supporting that.
Oh, good.
As having all of our council members working with the state highway and
Good.
developers to
Good.
make that happen.
I know from, I haven't been doing it now, but when I used to walk 4 miles, 5 miles a day and do that walk, it was always challenging because there was no sidewalk.
Well, and our Rails to Trails system is really coming together. I asked at the last council meeting, the section of Rails to Trails in my ward, I've been living up next to them for 18 years, and they're crumbling. And so we have at least 2 sections of Rails to Trails that need to be rebuilt. And it's great to build new, but you've got to maintain what you have.
Yes, of course.
And that's a critical need.
Of course. Anything else you want to share or add or comment on before?
No, I just want to say that, Karen and I have been here in the community 23 years. We've been very involved. I think because of my involvement in the chamber, I sat for 17 years on the chamber legislative committee and have a great working relationship with our delegates and senator. And I have the energy and the inclination to make sure that we lobby for the things that this community needs. And I think that's one of my assets.
Well, I wish you luck.
I appreciate it.
And I'm glad you were here. We've been talking with Al Silverstein. Al is running for mayor of Easton. As you know, he's been a council member, a town council member from Ward 1 for a long time.
8 years, yes, sir.
And we're appreciative for your service and grateful for your leadership. And we look forward to having you back on the Rabbi's Roundtable.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Al. Easton, we will be back momentarily.
The Avalon Foundation and MCTV programming is proudly supported by Easton Hardware and Floor Covering. Since 1939, we're still there and we still care. Did you know? MCTV programming is available online. Find our shows like Rabbi's Roundtable, Carlisle's Chesapeake, The Shameless Picture Show, Conversations with Sherry, and the Avalon Theater Presents at youtube.com/Midshore Community Television.
And we are back, Easton, and you are seated at the Rabbi's Roundtable. Again, I'm Rabbi Peter Hyman, Rabbi at Temple B'nai Israel, and we are coming to you from the studios of MCTV, excuse me, in the basement of the Avalon Theater. And I just want to inform the community, as you know, some of you know anyway, we always do a lecture series or a concert series at Temple B'nai Israel. This year, the 2023 Susan and Barry Co. Spring Lecture Series will take place in March, the last 3 Thursdays in March, March 9th, March 16th, and March 23rd. And it's an interesting topic, one that I wish we didn't have to talk about, but we'll talk more about that in another show. The theme is, and the title of the talk is Let's Talk! About anti-Semitism, racism, and bigotry. The 3 lecturers, March 9th is Marnie Feinberg. She's the founder of a group called Two for Seder. And Marnie created Two for Seder to honor the life of her mother-in-law, Joyce Feinberg, who was among the 11 killed during a mass shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, which we will remember happened in 2018. Our second speaker on March 16th is Meredith Weisel, actually. She's the director of the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. She's an attorney and government relations professional, and she is going to speak about anti-Semitism, the realities around it, the number of incidents, and what the ADL has been doing for the community in general, not just the Jewish community, but the community in general. Again, a very important lecture, and I hope you'll be able to participate. And our third speaker, who will be speaking on March 23rd, will be Ambassador Stuart Eisenstadt. Some of you know Ambassador Eisenstadt. He's special advisor on Holocaust issues to the Secretary of State, Secretary Blinken. Ambassador Eisenstadt is former Deputy Secretary of the Treasury. He served on that under past presidents. He's been an ambassador and both articulate, insightful, and what he will have to say again is enlightening, edifying, and sort of makes you go, boy, we didn't know that stuff. Anyway, so this is the 2023 Susan and Barry Coe Spring Lecture Series, which will be held at Temple B'nai Israel. If you want to come, you need to call the office and make reservations. It's going to be from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. on those dates. There's no fees, but you must have reservations. It will be an enlightening, as I said, interesting and edifying program. Other than that, I think we're about done with this edition of the Rabbi's Roundtable. I appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time, Easton, at the Rabbi's Roundtable.